body, I'm inadequate to battle with the sadness, saddled with depression, misdirection of an addict. I've been wishing as a mission I could have somebody listen and be born again a Christian. Maybe then they go the distance as a disciple. Go and get your rifles, bang bang, you're dead, and I lay in bed wondering if you knew about him and let him inside for eternal life. Last night woke up in the cold sweat with the same nightmare that I had an old friend. Guess I should've told him that you never know when God is gonna blow in. Hoping y'all told him. I said stop, wait, hold up the glove. I found somebody that I love. Like stop, hey, hold up the grave. I found somebody that can save. Like stop, dance, come get your mans. Bring him to the man who atones for your sins. Like stop, hey, hold up your praise. Get a little taste of amazing grace. Like need that number, need that number. And I need that number, need that. Come get you, need that number, need that number. I dance, need that number, need amazing grace. Like bring him to the man who atones for your sins. Like stop, hey, hold up your praise. Get a little taste of amazing grace. Like
I was running wild, fell in love with the chase. I've been up and down and all over the place, wasting all my days and nights, never feeling satisfied. Putting on a smile, I was keeping it fake, but there's no imitating what I found in your grace. All the things I left behind as shadows, now I've seen the light. In my head and my soul, my heart, my all, I know that I know, never, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never, never am I ever getting over living with you. Nothing will change it. All I can say is never, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. I've got a million reasons why it can't be the same. You've got me looking forward, never turning my gaze. Forever, God, it's you and I, together till the end of time. In my head and my soul, my heart, my all, I know that I know, never, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never, never am I ever getting over living with you. Nothing will change it. All I can say is never, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Your love is patient, love is kind.
Living on the edge.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I
Oh
think
no.
it's better under pressure though. Like I'm more productive writing my essay like a day it's due than
That's what I always told myself.
That was me in college too. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's what I told myself. You know, it catches up to you though.
yeah, I bet.
Yeah, it does catch up to you. Like, you just cannot procrastinate anymore.
No.
Like taxes.
Like
Tax day.
taxes. Thank you.
It was July 15th. I did it July 13th.
Oh my god.
Because initially it was due like April 1st, I think,
Yeah,
or April
yeah.
something. But then because of COVID, like IRS was like, we'll give you more time. It's okay, July. I'm like, okay, great. I don't have to do it now then. I just didn't do it. And then I saw my Google Calendar, which automatically populated tax day for me. And that's when I knew that I had to do it.
My day
And
had
it
come.
just happened to fall on a day where like I had everything else. But because I procrastinated on taxes, which only took me like maybe an hour to do. Yeah. It was so bad.
Oh man. Okay. On that note, we're not going to procrastinate about finding new housing, friends. So we're going to get started on our presentation. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you can make it tonight to our workshop. We're glad to have you here. We heard that Berkeley just totally flipped switches on the housing thing even just this week. So I'm really thankful for the timeliness of this workshop. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll be sure to answer them after in our Q&A time. So let's get started. So hi, I'm Beatrice. I'm this first one right here. I graduated in 2019 with a degree in history and education. I teach second graders how to read, and after work, I teach the Coin Juniors how to adult. So I'm gonna let my other friends introduce themselves.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Denise, and I'm one of those juniors that Beatrice talked about. And I'm majoring in environmental economics and policy, and also minoring in data science. I'm also a peer advisor for the College of Natural Resources, and I'm also an upperclassman mentor for COIN.
Hi guys, my name is Nina. I graduated in 2018 as a business administration major. So if anyone is pre-HOS or HOS major, shout out to you. And I'm currently working in the HR department as a recruiting coordinator at Amazon Music. And I am also a junior mentor for COIN.
Yes. Hello, nice to have you. They will be the ones running our Q&A time afterwards. So stay tuned. You'll see more of their lovely faces. So we heard that with the unexpected nature of COVID, finding housing has been an emotional roller coaster for a lot of you guys, and we wanted to help alleviate some stress. So COIN collaborated with the university's Basic Needs Center and the Cal Rental Program to create this workshop to pass along resources and to give you the ins and outs of finding housing in Berkeley. So to give you a little rundown about what the Basic Needs Center is, and then the Cal Rentals program. So the BNC, they're great. Like they provide students access to resources in food, housing, and financial support. You can check them out at basicneeds.berkeley.edu. And then Cal Rentals is this really cool housing website that Berkeley runs, where students can browse current apartment listings owned by the university and can even search for their own roommates there. You can check them out at och.berkeley.edu. So for today's workshop, we're going to keep it really simple. We're going to break our workshop into two aspects, the housing and the hunting. So in a perfect world, pretty much any home hunting reality TV show, you would figure out everything you want for the first category and then hunt based on your preferences for the second category. But this is Berkeley. This is reality TV show's Crazy Uncle. So likely one or more of these categories will need to be compromised. And often you don't know what you're looking for until one, after you start looking around a little bit, and actually two, you start living in that place. So we'll be focusing on finding an apartment in Berkeley. We won't be focusing on university provided housing like Channing Bowditch or Martinez, or dorm living as well. Co-ops, frats, or sororities. I don't have any experience with these, but if you have any questions about transitioning into dorm life, which we also will not be talking about, you can ask us in the Q&A panel at the end of this talk. Okay, so some considerations. So when thinking about what to look for in a place, here's some things to consider using the acronym CLAPS or SCALP. We're going to go with CLAPS because that sounds a little better. So for C, cost. One of the first things you should decide with roommates is budget. So is everyone going to pay the same thing? What utilities are included? How does this affect monthly living expenses? Is your housing provided through the university? So for example, Martinez Commons, Channing Bowditch, those. These tend to, like the dorms, be more expensive. And then L, location. Is it on north side? North side's pretty quiet. It's near the north side of campus, far from the hub of most people. And then there's south side. It's not as safe, closer to campus, a little bit more expensive because it's closer. And there's other students and frequent hangout spots there. Or there's downtown. It's the furthest, but has really good food. And there's also not as many students. So how far is your first class from Berkeley on campus? So it's something to consider, probably not for fall semester since we're fully remote, but maybe for the spring when maybe Berkeley goes hybrid, or where else your majority of your classes would be. That's something to keep in mind. And then are there buses close by? Buses are the bread and butter of being a Berkeley student. So will you regularly need to be commuting somewhere outside of campus using the bus? What form of transportation do you have? Will you have a car? And if so, does the complex have underground parking or street parking? Is it extra? Is it guaranteed? Is it just open for all? So for street parking, how does street parking work in the area? What zone do I live in? So Berkeley has different zones and you get different stickers based on those zones. So you kind of want to look at those beforehand if you have a car and you're bringing it up to Berkeley, or you have a bike. So is there a place to store your bike, like on the balcony or indoors where it's locked and kept safe? Bike theft is a big thing here. How far is your nearest bus stop? Those are some things to consider. Another big one is how far is the nearest grocery store? Is it within walking distance, busing, biking distance? For grocery stores, the best bus routes you're gonna need are 51B, 18, F, and 6. I cannot tell you how many times I use 51B to go to Berkeley Bowl to grab my groceries. So a nice strategy is to bus there and then Uber back or have your friend pick you up so you don't have to carry everything back. And then A, atmosphere. What's the layout of the apartment? What is the size of the rooms? Is the living room size bigger than the rooms? What's the size of the kitchen? Kind of keeping all of those things in mind. How much sunlight is the apartment getting? What are the neighbors like? The neighborhood like? Is there a lot of partying? Are you on frat row? Do you live near quiet families on the north side? Do you live next to an eccentric lady in her 60s? Are there dogs, cats, and chickens or turkeys nearby? There's a lot of turkeys on north side, but they're nice and they don't hurt you if you bother them. Is there construction happening? There's a lot of construction downtown, or will it happen in the future? And if your parents visit, what do they think about the place? That's important too. And then P, project, not project, project. So what is your home routine like? I know a lot of you are at home right now or might be at home or different places, but think about it in the future. Like ask yourself these questions. Do I cook a lot or will I want to cook a lot or not at all? Where do I spend most amount of my time? In the room, in the living room? Can I see myself living here? Do I spend a lot of time at home or do you think I'll spend more time on campus? Do I study at home better or off campus? So is this place owned by a landlord or a property management company? How responsive are they? Like, do they answer emails quickly and answer the phone calls? And then S, safety. How safe is the area of the complex? Are the streets well lit? How secure is the building? Is it in a gated community or just kind of free for all? What time will you be coming back home if you're studying off campus or going out? Is it Bear Walk or Night Safety Services radius? So Berkeley has this thing called Bear Walk where they can walk you home from campus. I'm not sure if it'll be in function now that classes are all virtual, but it might still happen. Do you know people who live close by who can walk back with you? So those are some considerations. But then considerations for hunting that are important. I'm going to use my little acronym RENT. So R for roommates. Obviously, one of the biggest considerations for the housing dynamic is, well, your roommates. And that can have a whole other talk. But probably the most crucial piece of advice that I can give is lock them down early. Treat your maybes as no's and only search with people who have said yes. So what is everyone looking for? Who is free to house hunt, to visit apartments? Who's organized enough to do all of it? For me, I had a couple of friends who would kind of run this for us, and it was really helpful. The more organized friends you have, the better they can help you with this. And then E, eligible. Are there restrictions to living here? For example, can only grad students live in these? Or they don't take cosigners, or you need to visit the property to apply. So the Berkeley rent rule for roommates is so important. So you can have, the amount of roommates you can have is 2 times the number of bedrooms plus 1. So if I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, I know that there's 2 bedrooms, so then that'd be 4 people plus 1. So legally I can have 5 roommates if you live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and then you can scale up or scale down depending on how many rooms you have. And then the last one, do they take cosigners? I know a lot of students would be, their parents might be cosigners for them, and that's important to ask. They do take cosigners, and is that something that's eligible for, that I'm eligible for? And then N, and that's my favorite, nagging, blitz them. Message, text, email, spam, whatever you need to do. Don't pin your hopes on any one place because the housing market moves fast. And in Berkeley, it's very volatile. And then the last one, T, tour. If possible, visit location yourself. Actually see the place you're gonna live at. Imagine yourself living there. And if you're visiting when the previous residents are there, ask them about their experience. It's so important. Ask them why they're moving out. Because if they're still students, they'll tell you all the ugly parts. We've done that and it's very helpful having to just take away options that are like, the people are like, this is terrible, don't live here. Got it, great. Moving on to the next one. So another important aspect is if an open house looks good and pretty legit online, show up with your roommates with the applications already filled out. This gives you an advantage. You can just hand it to the landlord and then it shows that you're actually prepared and ready to go. Yes, but given COVID, we also know that a lot of you guys can't come to go see your places. So you can also request a virtual tour. Most property managements, since they want to get people into their apartments right now, they'll be more than happy to most likely give you a virtual tour. So don't be afraid to ask the person who's touring to get close-up shots on certain areas, especially if they look a little bit sus. And then here are some resources we have. So Property management websites are pretty good resources. Try to get in contact with a specific representative that the management company has so that you can go through looking for all the apartments you're interested in through that company. I personally rented from North Berkeley Properties. They're pretty awesome, very responsive. I rented from them for 2 years, and then I passed on the apartment to my sister. Super easy, and I really, really recommend them. If possible, avoid Everest Properties and Raj Properties. They have some sketchy backgrounds. You can Google it, but yeah, I would avoid it. And then for Craigslist, you can look up Craigslist, but watch out for scams. If it looks too good to be true in Berkeley, it probably is. So make sure rent falls within the range of what you're looking for too. Like we said, the Cal Rentals website will have some stuff about rent, but we'll look at as well. Be wary of visiting any Craigslist posting that is not attached to a property management company. So take people with you. And then you can look at other apartment websites like apartment.com, Zillow. These are more likely to list places that are available now as opposed to in the summer or in the fall. And then my favorite, Facebook's free and for sale. So that's really helpful, especially for people who are independent looking for roommates. And it's really good for sublets. So if you can't live there the whole semester and you're only looking for a place for just one semester, not the whole year, that's a good place to look for sublets as well. And then Berkeley also offers housing resources too. So you can check out Cal Rentals here for more information about living off campus and browsing through their collection of resources. So here are some. There's like off-camping housing resources, which is awesome because all newly admitted and currently registered Berkeley students can use their services. You have to have a Cal ID link login. It's been like a year since I've done this. Yeah, a Cal link login, Cal something login, basically your student ID. And then the second one, they have really awesome housing hunting tips. Like, what are the internet providers in your area? Super useful. I didn't think of that when I first got my apartment. And then what are the typical rent ranges, not ranges, ranges that are in Berkeley so that you don't get gypped out of your money. And then they have like move out 101, some moving out campus checklists. They can see whether or not you're a good neighbor by looking at this checklist, or housing assistance for students with disabilities. They can get you connected with the California's Department of Rehabilitation so you can live independently. And those are some really helpful resources. Another resource is the Basic Needs Center, like I mentioned before. And so the Basic Needs Center is like one of the hidden gems in Berkeley. This is Kyoko. She's awesome. If out of all these resources, the one resource you remember is Kyoko. Get in contact with her. She is the one that handles all of the housing case management loads, and she's pretty responsive and very awesome. So these are some things that they offer: more housing search resources, housing security deposit for students who need assistance in paying for housing security deposit on campus or off campus, which is golden. Emergency rental assistance, if you find you need help paying your rent, they can help you out maybe with a scholarship or some kind of a loan. Emergency housing, if you're in between housing, or you need just short-term housing, they can hook you up. And then the last one is very important: knowing your rights. So they are connected with the Berkeley Rent Board. They can help you as tenants when you're looking, know your rights to find housing. So yes, that is Kyoko. And then the Basic Needs Center, here is their pamphlet. They have a lot of different resources on here. You see here, there's Cal Rentals, student co-ops, if you want to live in co-ops, the Law Center and Housing Program. They help you if you need to sue anybody, they can help you with that. Emergency support. So you can look through this list, lots of different resources. And finally, to end, we know that it's super hard to find housing. And I imagine there's the search tension between, is it nice? Is it big? Is it in my budget? So finally, don't be discouraged if the apartment you sign off for isn't your dream place, or if you feel like you had to make a lot of compromises. You can always look next year, and chances are you'll probably do better the second time around, since you've had some experience. So what you can do is to stay tuned. After this, we have our live housing Q&A by our lovely junior mentor, Denise, and then also awesome alumni mentor, Nina. They can give some of their own personal experiences, and I'll be there too. And then I mentioned earlier virtual housing tours. And so Coin is actually trying to give housing tours. We'll have some dates and times set later to show off the 3 different areas: North Side, South Side, and downtown Berkeley. And for our main goal is to try to give you a feel of what these neighborhoods would look like, so that when you're searching for apartments in these areas, you kind of have a backdrop of what to look out for and where you might be living. So it's actually really helpful. So, and if you have any other suggestions on ways that we can help you, or any more questions, let us know. Drop those questions in the chat and we can try to make another workshop to answer your questions too. So that concludes my talk. Oh, wait, actually, most important, connect with us. We would love to connect with you. So here I have our website, coinberkeley.org, and then our Facebook and Instagram. You can DM us on Instagram, and Mina runs us, so she'll get your DMs. And then if you want to connect with a mentor with Coin, you can go to coinberkeley.org and actually look up Bear Buddies. You can get connected personally with a mentor, or even just hit us up. We're there too. Just ask us, and we'd be more than willing to help you out. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening and happy hunting.
Great. Thank you, Beatrice, for that presentation. So we will be moving on to the live Q&A portion as we promised. If you have any questions that you thought of during the presentation, or just any questions you just came into this workshop with, feel free to now ping them into the chat. We'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that. And also a type form should have gone out, and that's like a fancier Google sign up, Google form page pretty much. So if you're interested in those live tours, neighborhood tours that will take place in the future, feel free to leave your contact information there. If you have any other questions, or you just want one of us to reach out to you to help you in your housing search, then also feel free to leave your contact information with us. But in the meantime, we will just wait for the questions that are going to come through. And while we wait, I thought it might be helpful to kind of have each of us share the best off-campus apartments that we've lived in Berkeley, and how you were able to find that place. So we'll start with Denise.
All right. I've only been in 2 off-campus housings, and I think the current one, the one that I'm in right now, actually has been the best so far. And I actually found this through like a friend. Like I took over, like she just graduated this year, so I basically took over her apartment. So I think asking like any like senior friends that you have that might potentially be like moving out of Berkeley, or just moving out of like their apartment in general, those they're most likely be like willing to refer you to the landlord, because that's how I got it. She told me all about the info on how to like apply to this place, and she's lived here, so she knows everything about it, and so far it's been amazing. And just all the people that I'm living with, they're all like my friends, so it's been very fun, and it's just a nice location too. It's like 2 blocks away from campus. It doesn't mean much right now since everything's online, but once the school year starts, it will be really nice.
That is so true. She lives possibly in one of the closest apartments you can from campus.
Yes.
Usually the ones that are closer to campus are dirtier or just really run down, but her apartment is quite nice. Yeah. Okay, actually we have a question. So we'll go ahead and answer this, and then maybe we can ask Thea for the nicest place that she's lived in. The question is, how long did it take for you to find an apartment? A few weeks, a month? Yeah, so Bia, why don't you answer this question?
Sure. I think we started our housing hunt in February, and then we got our house in end of May. So we signed our contract, end of May. So a few months, took a while. So I would start as soon as possible. The closer, the faster you get, the sooner you get on it, the more options you have, and the less stressed you'll feel to just settle for anything. So I would start as early as you can.
I think to add on to that, this place I'm living in right now, I moved in June, but I actually started, I filled out an application for this place last year in December. So I think it also depends on the apartment that you're looking at, but starting earlier would be best, because this apartment's actually like really popular. So actually only one of the or only two of the two-bedroom apartments like in this entire building open for this year to move in. So some places are very competitive and or sometimes like not many people move out. So I think just looking as early as possible will save you a lot of stress down the line.
Yeah. Usually people are looking for apartments for the next academic year, right? So starting like June. It's easier to find apartments where the leases start in June as opposed to August when the school year starts. So you might have to find a sublet for the summer. So for example, if you're looking to move into an apartment in June, it's best to start your search in January or February of that year. So I guess a lot of income students or just ongoing continuing students, you guys will be having fully remote instruction in the fall and may or may not be coming back in the spring semester. So if you're looking for a place to move in January of next year, then I would start looking maybe like August of this year. And yeah, again, things are up in the air because of COVID, but it is best to start a few months earlier. And in my instance, like I mentioned earlier, I graduated in 2018. So I've lived in 4 different apartments in Berkeley since then. And every single time it hasn't taken me as long as like 3 or 4 months, but as soon as you can secure a place or start looking and secure a place, the process can also happen really quickly. The longest portion is the hunting and looking for the right apartment that you want to move in. But as soon as you find that place and they're already offering tours or what have you, then it can take as quickly as like a week or 2 weeks to sign the lease, make it official. And another question we have is, what was one of the most challenging things about house hunting? I'll give you guys a second to think about that.
I think one of the challenging things was like just considering everything, like the price, the location, because my place is closer to campus, it's like more expensive. We originally only had 4 people, and this place for 4 people would have been really expensive. So we were debating between this place that I'm at right now versus another place that was further away from campus, but also the condition was a little worse. So, but thankfully we got another person to live with us, to room with us. So our overall rent is so much cheaper with 5 people than 4 people. But that was one of the main challenges for us looking for housing this year.
I think for me, one of the most challenging things about finding housing, sorry, there's gonna be some noise in the background. My housemates, I live with housemates, are kind of talking. Even after college, they live with housemates. I think one of the challenging things was just to continue to keep looking, even when your answer or like the apartment you like isn't ideal, or like you have to keep continual searching. So like, don't give up hope. It's easy to get discouraged. I think that was one of the hardest parts about house hunting, because it can look great on like online, but then if you check it out in person or do virtual tours, it might be really sketchy. So just keep looking. I think that's one advice I wish that I had, to not just settle, but keep looking. You'll find something out there.
I agree. And just to add a little bit on top of Denise's answer, I think not even from my own experience, but hearing from a lot of other people's experience, the most challenging thing is roommates, because everything's up in the air and you may not have everyone committed to the group. Someone might pull out last minute, and that's going to change your entire housing structure and what you can afford, or different things like that. So like Bia mentioned in the presentation, you really want to work with a group that is committed and solid. Yeah. We'll move on to the next question, which is, what are some things to look out for? And what was one thing you ended up not liking but didn't know you wouldn't like it when you first got the place? That's a good question. That is a great question. So it really depends on your preferences, but I have a very particular roommate. So when we were looking for an apartment to live in Berkeley, like some non-negotiable she had was there needs to be a vent in the kitchen. Like usually as part of the microwave or when you're cooking, like you need to turn on a fan. Not all apartments have that actually, but she's very like sensitive to the dust in the air. So like those are things that not all apartments might have. Incinerator, very small thing, but also not apartments might have them. In which case composting can be just like really nasty and things like that. Not all windows might have screens in them or installed. So in the Berkeley, when there are no air conditioning and it gets really hot in the summer, you open the windows, like a lot of things might end up coming in without the screen. So those are like really small things that people usually miss when they're looking for a house or an apartment. And Denise and Bia, do you guys have anything else that people should look out for?
I don't have anything for that question, but I have one thing that I like ended up not liking that I thought I wouldn't mind, but for my
Yeah.
place last year, I was living in downtown Berkeley, and it was like kind of far from campus, way further than I'm living right now. And initially, I didn't think I would mind the distance because I knew I was just gonna spend the majority of the day on campus anyways. But it kind of made it a little inconvenient because if I had to go home for something, it was pretty far. So I needed to pack like literally everything with me, and I didn't really go home for like lunch or dinner either. So I either had to like meal prep, which I rarely did, or just eat out, and that costs a lot of money. So yeah, that's one thing I ended up not liking, like just the location because it's downtown and like the distance.
I think for me is I didn't really get to know my neighbors, like who lived in my apartment complex. So senior and junior year, I lived really not like a couple blocks down from RSF, which is the gym in Berkeley. And I lived with a lot of swimmers and athletes. But then they also like to party on the weekends. We didn't know that. We just thought, wow, this is a beautiful place. And like the outline is great. And but then on weekends though, like I didn't know that being on the first floor and having a whole bunch of balconies above you, a lot of different like bottles and stuff could just fall into your yard. That's one thing I didn't know. Your yard kind of becomes like just like trashed over the weekend if you have like neighbors above you. So that's one thing I didn't know. I wasn't at all expecting. But yeah, just the frequent weekend cleanups of our yard. But it's nice to have a yard. Just know that you have to probably keep it better maintenance. You probably won't study out there because it's loud and you might get something dropped on you. So just something to look out for.
Yeah, for sure. And a big thing to look out for, does the apartment get sun? Or is it like really dark in there? And is it on the first floor? Usually apartments on second stories or higher up get more sun than the lower units. But this is particularly important because Berkeley gets a lot of mold. And more likely than not, your apartment will have black mold that the landlords just scraped off and covered up with paint. And this can be like this actually like affects your health in the future in the long run. So it's, with college, it's just so busy. There's no time to clean as frequently. So with that, plus a lot of people like rooming together, it's just the perfect place for mold to grow. And if there's no sunlight in your unit, then that's even just like extra. It's like a mold party. My senior year, I lived in one of those apartments and we had no idea until we pulled out the furniture at the end of the year to move out, and it was like a demon had like just taken over our unit. There was black mold like behind the desks, the I don't know, just clothes we never took out in the closet. So don't do that. Find a place that has a lot of sunlight and a lot of ventilation. Make sure that your bathroom either has a window or has a really nicely working fan. Yeah, so that's something to look out for, fans. Another question is how far is living too far away from campus? Is there a limit? Again, another great question. I think maybe Denise, you thought that your unit wasn't that far or you could do it, but when you start actually living in it, you find that it is actually really inconvenient. Is that the case?
Yeah, that was the case because I didn't mind like walking to campus at all. Like I didn't mind the distance, but if I had to go back, like if I forgot something, it was really inconvenient because it took like I think around like I want to say like 20 minutes to walk there. And oh, I guess yeah, there was the 51B that went to campus, but I actually didn't really take the bus because I thought the bus was unreliable, and sometimes in the mornings too, the bus would just pass my stop if there was too many people in the bus because people are like don't want to walk and they want to take the bus. So yeah, I didn't think I lived originally finding this house. I was like, oh, it's only like a 20-minute walk, but then a 20-minute walk is a lot if you want to go back home in the middle of the day and then come back to campus.
That is very true. My junior year, I lived in an apartment. I don't know if you're familiar with the Berkeley area, but I lived in an apartment on Parker and Fulton Street, which from that apartment to the edge of campus where Sather Lane is, or I guess the main entrance of campus, was probably a I want to say maybe a 15-minute, 20-minute walk. But I also had classes in Haas because that's where I was a business major. So most of my classes were in Haas and Memorial Stadium, actually, which is like the furthest you can probably go from my apartment. So that's also something to keep in mind. If you know where your classes are going to be primarily, you don't want to live in an apartment unit opposite from that class because it would take me like 30 minutes to walk to my classes. And so I actually ended up lifting a lot or like using Uber to get to my classes. But it was just a hike or a trek up there. I would say far from campus is anything like 15 plus minutes walk from where your classes are. Not the edge of campus, but where your classes are. So that's something to keep in mind. But also know if you're in Berkeley, you're just going to be walking a lot. So bring a really good pair of shoes and you're going to get fit. It's going to be great.
Yes,
Yeah.
Berkeley is really hilly. So I did not expect, like, okay, well, freshman 15 is one thing. We can also lose 15 pounds too if you want to. So
Yeah.
just walk to class.
Freshman minus 15. Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I think similarly, like if it's 15 minutes or more from your first class, probably too far. You're not going to like it when you wake up 5 minutes before your class starts and you're like rushing to go to campus. Is not good. You're going to get sweaty.
You have ADMs.
Yeah, not good. Yeah.
So
cap it at around 15 minutes walking. If you walk, or if you have a bike, perfect. Bring your bike too, but keep in mind of traffic and like foot traffic, car traffic, and just be safe. So 15 minutes is a good cap.
I have something to add about biking though, because it's Berkeley so hilly. Actually, biking from downtown to the west side of campus, where I had most of my classes last year, it was awful. I did it once and I never did it again because it was all uphill.
Exactly. So those are all good things to keep in mind. What else? It also depends if you're gonna bring a car. Then I guess you can live further away. But it's pretty painful to park around Berkeley, and student parking permits are crazy expensive. So unless you can afford it, I really don't recommend bringing a car. I don't think you would probably need a car, especially your first 2 years of college. Yeah, I also lived all the way down like past Ashby and Telegraph. Again, if you're not familiar with the area, you wouldn't know how far away that is, but that's like a 30-minute walk from the edge of campus. So if I had classes at Haas, if I would have lived there, then it would have been like a 40-minute walk to class, which is not very fun. But again, it was because the place was cheap. It was in okay condition and it wasn't like crazy loud. It was a really safe neighborhood. So I did it. But yeah, it really depends what your priorities are. It is inconvenient to have to go back, but it was a nice place to live. Also keep in mind that most of the places, the convenient places to live around campus are going to be dangerous or just sketch. Yeah. But bring a pepper spray with you. Okay, well, I think that I don't think we have any new questions. Maybe we can either think about things we ended up not liking, but we didn't know we wouldn't like it. I guess distance is one of them. Maybe you can continue to think about that, or Bia, you can tell us a story of how you secured your favorite off-campus housing in Berkeley.
Sure. So finding your roommates early is so helpful, or like having other friends who are looking will look with you. That's how I found my gem of my house in Berkeley, or my apartment in Berkeley. So one of my friends found an apartment right next to where we ended up living. And then because she had looked at the apartment that I was going to live in earlier and checked it out, she's like, you know what, I think our friends would like this one. They ended up going with the apartment right next door, owned by the same property, North Berkeley Properties. Pretty awesome, just letting you know. And so when they got the apartment, they let us know that like, hey, like the apartment next door to us has a really like 2 bedrooms that you're looking for, and we just checked it out. It's pretty legit. Maybe you guys should check it out too. And I was like, bless the Lord for friends. And that was the best apartment. Our living room was huge. Our bedrooms were big. And like the bathroom was like easily accessible. It was on the first floor, easy move in. It was the gem. I was so sad when we had to leave when we graduated. But now my sister has it, so I guess it's fine. But yes, I think looking with friends is so helpful, because you don't know. If they don't like it, they might just hand it off to you. And then you don't have to do the dirty work of finding more things. So highly recommend.
I can testify Bia's place is really nice, and North Berkeley Properties is a more legitimate company to work with. I know Bia said in her presentation that you might want to avoid Raj Properties or Everest Properties because of some scandals they had in the past. You can look it up. But I live in a Raj property right now currently. And they have cleaned up a lot of their former ways, and it's not a bad place to live. Like, considering Berkeley, our place is newly renovated and the rent isn't crazy expensive. And also I know that Bia said that the number or maximum number of occupants you can have in a unit is number of bedrooms plus one. I've looked for a lot of places around Berkeley. That may not always be the case, because some landlords just might think it's so crazy that you would want any more than 2 roommates in a 2-bedroom apartment. So even though if you were trying to or interested in a 2-bedroom apartment, technically you can have up to 5 people in that unit, depending on who's renting the place or the landlord. They might think that that is a crazy number of people to have in their unit, and they're not going to allow it. Or a lot of the times, if you are going to have that +1 occupant, they're going to charge you extra. Most of the time, they are going to charge you extra for that extra occupant. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another question that we got from the viewers is, which part of Berkeley is less sketch? North side.
North side.
North side is definitely less sketch. Yeah, so if you look on Google Maps, you see Berkeley, and you'll actually see like North Side or North Berkeley, South Side, and downtown Berkeley. So the houses around North Side, those are really not sketchy. South Side is the sketchiest, and because a People's Park is there, not just because People's Park is there, but because there's a lot of like homeless people, or a lot of the crime is concentrated there. So one thing to check is, if you're interested in a unit, go to Google Maps, see how far it is from the edge of campus or wherever your classes are, and also check the crime rate around that area. I don't remember the website off the top of my head, but there is a website that will tell you the crime incidents that happened in the area that you're interested in.
Is it wildfire? Is wildfire still a thing?
I have no idea what it's called. Denise,
check out
do you
wildfire. Know? I don't know. Denise might know.
I don't think I've ever heard of wildfire.
I'm dating myself.
Yeah. Well, if you look up crime rates or crime incidents and type the address you're interested in or the area, then you'll get something. And yeah, I've lived in South Side. I lived on North Side. Denise has lived in like West Side of Berkeley. North Side was really nice. A lot of old people. A lot of families live there. Nice gardens. Beautiful neighborhood to walk in. Except it's just so far from campus. It's not convenient if you're a student, unless your classes are all like North Side of Berkeley. South Side, where I'm currently living in right now, there are a lot of interesting people around. The other day, I was walking to my car, and a homeless man asked me if I had shaved my beard. There's just a lot of interesting people on South Side, and I have personally encountered some dangerous situations. So as like a woman or female person, so I wouldn't say I recommend North Side because it is so inconvenient, but just walk home with friends or use Bear Walk. Yeah, carry your pepper spray with you, be alert, and you'll be fine. We all went through it. Yeah, north side safe, south side sketchiest, and I guess west side is somewhere in the middle. So actually, for me, the best place I've ever lived in is also right now in Berkeley. I live on South Side, and it's like less than a 10-minute walk from the edge of campus. And like I mentioned, it's renovated, but I found it on Raj Properties. So again, we were kind of hesitant on whether or not we should proceed with this place, but we did it anyway. And yeah, they're okay. I think the application process might be kind of stressful for a lot of people because a lot of you guys are students. You don't have income or anything like that, so you'll need a cosigner, like Bia mentioned. And that process, I had to do that before. Okay, apparently wildfire is still a thing, by the way.
Yes, I'm not outdated.
That is great. That is wonderful. So you guys can totally use that. That is a resource for y'all. Yeah, but anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, so we just decided to move forward with the place. And the application, especially with the cosigner portion, is when I had to do it, I had to send this form to my mom. She had to fill it out, and she had to go somewhere and get it like publicly sealed by a notary. And like certain people, like in the post office or in the court, just random places are designated as these official notary people, and they have to seal it. And my mom had to mail it back to me, and it's kind of a complicated process. So depending on who you're working with, whether it's like a private landlord or like North Berkeley Properties or Raj Properties, the application process can be pretty easy or it can be pretty strict. So that's one painful part. Yeah, but something to note for that. I've also found places through Craigslist. So I know Bia mentioned like make sure to look out for like sketchiness of Craigslist and see if they work with anybody. I've rented apartments through private landlords or individual landlords on Craigslist. Some were better than others. But again, I would recommend that you go with a friend to check out the place. And also, you want to ask questions, especially since you might not be able to view the place yourself. You want to email the landlord with all of the questions you have, even things like incinerator. Do you have like a working bathroom fan? Do you have screens in the windows? Yeah, you want to ask those questions as well as what utilities are included. A lot of the times you'll find water and garbage is included, so you don't have to pay for that, which is great. Do you provide off-street parking or like a garage? And if you do provide garage parking, how much is it per month? So yeah, different questions like that. Yeah. Well, if there are no new questions, I think we can wrap up a bit earlier than the schedule. But yeah, again, we'll drop the type form link at. If you have that we didn't get to answer tonight that you think of later, or you just want to kind of consult us on finding off-campus housing in Berkeley. And again, if you're interested in the neighborhood tours of the three different areas of Berkeley to get a feel for where you want to live in, yeah, then please sign up and leave your contact information in the type form.
Yes, yes. Thank
Yeah,
you,
but other
Mina.
than that, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, for the presentation, Bia. And thanks for answering the questions, Denise. All right, hope to see you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.